Good evening. I'm Valerie Prenger. I am the Director of the Office of Scientific Review for the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. I've been with NHLBI since 1997. Before that, I was a faculty member at the University of Maryland School of Medicine and used to write grants and apply to NIH for funding. And decided after being asked to attend a lot of peer review meetings that I'd just come work for them rather than come anyway. I happen to be within the institute or center. We'll talk about review done both at the Center for Scientific Review, which most of the R01s are reviewed through, and also review within an institute or center, which is where I am. So why is this in the class? NIH has known for many years that clinical research projects are hard to design well and present in a short number of pages that NIH allows for research applications. The overall success rate of clinical research projects is slightly lower than the success rate for basic research projects, although it's not that far off, and it's been on the rise for the last several years, but still it doesn't attain the success rates for basic research projects. And NIH has, over the years, sponsored many projects looking at data analysis on this to try to get a handle on why that is. And one thing we know is that it's not due to higher budgets for higher requested budgets for clinical research, because institutes and centers fund multi-year, many million-dollar clinical trials through these mechanisms. So the fact that they cost a lot is not a deterrent for funding or a success rate. It's not review panel assignment, because you see lower rates for clinical research projects regardless of the study section assignment. It's not due to a disproportionate number or percent of clinical applications in a review meeting compared to basic. So it's not like they're washed out of the peer review meeting, and it's not related to the number of clinical scientists that are actually peer reviewers on the panel. So we know a lot about what it's not due to. What we have surmised is that it must be other things that we really can't measure. So what it is, what we chalk it up to, is that clinical projects are just harder to design well, and present in a finite number of pages. And that after one submission, clinicians tend to give up rather than revise and resubmit, because that takes more time, and quite frankly, they can probably make more money practicing medicine, so they give up in research and they move on. So the topics for today related to those is, first of all, an overview of the NIH peer review process, review criteria for research project grants, which have to be addressed during the application process. I'll give you a list of career development award mechanisms, which a lot of clinicians like to start out with or supplement their R01s with. There is an NIH loan repayment program for clinical researchers in a few fields that I'll tell you about that may be of interest. We'll go over the format for research project applications. There have been some changes this year. NIH has been addressing rigor and transparency in the applications. So some of the review criteria have added questions to them. And the instructions for the application have also been amended. And at the final bit, I'll give you some hints for preparing a stronger application. So the National Institutes of Health has 27 actually, institutes and centers. And all but one of those is a funding entity. The Center for Scientific Review, shown in red, is not a funding entity. They do not fund grants, rather they review grants for the other entities of NIH, and their budget actually comes from the other institutes and centers' budget. For the FY 2015, the NIH budget was about $30.3 billion. Everything shown in pink, the labels in pink on this pie chart are research-related dollars. So about 81% of NIH's budget goes right back out the door in the form of grants and research contracts. That shown in yellow, this other 16%, is the research management and support is the cost of doing business. That's the cost of buildings, paper, people that administer the grants that are awarded, and to pay for any support that is needed along those lines. And 11% is dedicated to intramural research here at NIH. And I should say that that's very stable, those percentages. Though the amount may change, the percentage breakdown remains fairly consistent throughout the years. I think last year the intramural research program went up from 10 to 11. That was the first increase that they'd seen in about 6 years. NIH uses a dual review system for grant applications before they're paid. The first level of review is what people usually think of as review. That's the peer review system where reviewers actually critique the grant application. The standing committee is usually referred to as the Scientific Review Group, or SRG. They review the application for scientific merit. They rate or score the applications and recommend an appropriate budget and duration of award. So if they have comments on the budget, the SROs try to keep the reviewers in broad brushstrokes so they don't nickel and dime applicants to death. But they may make some budget suggestions, budget recommendations. And they do not make any funding decision. The only thing they do is rate the scientific merit of the application. That then goes back to that score with the application, go back to the institute that then takes the application to council. And the council, an independent group from the scientific review group, assesses the quality of the review, whether it was a good review or not. If you want to appeal the decision at the review, the score, there are standard grounds for appeal that is allowed, and any appeals go to the advisory council of the IC and are considered there. The council then makes a recommendation to institute staff on funding, and they also help program staff within the institute evaluate program priorities and relevance in their view. If they think different areas need to be funded more or other areas toned down, they'll make those recommendations to institute staff. And they will advise the institute if they want policies changed or not. The submission and award process take about 9 months on the average. There are 3 council rounds a year, 3 major receipt dates a year corresponding with those councils at the end. So you, as the applicant, would come up with the research idea. You would then hand it over to the Office of Sponsored Project at the institution. They then submit the application online electronically to the National Institutes of Health. It then gets assigned to an IC based on scientific mission. So whether it comes to Heart, Lung, and Blood, or it goes to The Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases depends on the scientific content and goals of the application in hand. And those mission statements can be found on the internet. So you can predict or try to direct where your application goes. It then gets assigned to a scientific review group that reviews it for scientific merit, and then goes back to the Institute or Center for the second round of review, which is at council. The council recommends action, that is to fund or not to fund, and then it's up to Institute staff to do the final paperwork to either fund it or not. And then if funds are allocated, then you get your research done. One note is that even though we as researchers think of ourselves as the applicant, because we're the ones that fill out the application and the ideas are ours and we're submitting them to the NIH considers your institution the applicant, not you. So when formal correspondence with the applicant occurs, it's usually to the institution's official signatory. And then you'll be copied on any correspondence. So notices of grant award go to, Notices of grant award go through the sponsored projects office of the institution. There are 3 general types of individuals at NIH that are involved in the extramural grants process. The first one that you'll run into is probably the scientific review officer. This is an MD or a PhD that is the administrative head of the review group that's going to be reviewing your application. SROs are housed either in the Center for Scientific Review and also in the Institute or Center. They organize and manage the scientific review groups and are responsible for assigning reviewers, choosing reviewers to review the applications. They prepare the summary statements, which is the official report that lists your score and the critiques from the individual reviewers. And from submission, grant submission, until the review is complete, they're your primary point of contact with what your grant is doing and where it is in the process. So if you have any questions or you have any concerns, you can contact them. And when you register in the ERA Commons as a principal investigator, when you submit a grant application, you will be getting, if you log on to your account, the status of your application is always shown in there. And the contact information for the SRO, as well as the program officer, which I'll get to next, are in there. So you can always look up their contact information. Also, when you do get the summary statement, they're listed on there as well. The second type of individual is the program officer or program director. They're also an MD or a PhD. They are housed in the institutes or centers. You won't find any of those in the Center for Scientific Review. That's because these are the primary administrators of the grant after it's funded. So only the funding entities would have program officers within them. They manage a portfolio of awarded grants and contracts, R&D contracts, and it's up to them to monitor the scientific progress of the grants. So any of your the reports that you put in, the annual progress reports that you put in on a yearly basis go to them. If there are any concerns, any changes that you want to make in the budget, you go to them. From the time that the grant leaves review and then all the way through the life of the grant. You can also contact the program officers before you submit a grant if you can find out which one manages a portfolio that is in the same area as your grant, your proposed grant. The third person that's important is the money person. That's the grants or contracts management officer. They're also within the NIH institutes and centers, or the ones that actually award the grants. These people are responsible for fiscal stewardship of the portfolio. So they're responsible for monitoring the financial process. So the program officer monitors the scientific process, and the grants management officer monitors the financial progress of your grants and contracts. So there's a separation of money and scientific oversight. Come on. So most of the, actually all of the NIH grant applications are now submitted electronically through grants.gov. Most of the R&D contracts are now submitted electronically, although there are some that still come in on paper for contracts. But all of the grants come in online. There's an online portal called grants.gov, which you can use to find funding opportunities that you would like to apply to, and that's also the portal that you use to submit your grant and apply. Now, I say you submit it. It's actually, again, your institution that actually submits the actual electrons to us. But it's grants.gov that you would need to peruse to find the funding opportunities that would be of interest to you, and to download the actual application from the site so that you can fill it out. There's a place, like I said, called ERA Commons. This is DHHS's electronic system for receiving applications, and they actually transmit, review, and award information to you and your institution through that device. And it's important that institutions, the research institutions, know they're already registered within this system for award management. But if you happen to go to an institution that's not a research-intensive institution, and maybe no one else has tried to apply for an NIH grant before, you do need to, and your intent is to want to apply to grants while you're there, then you need to contact their sponsored projects person and give them the instructions for registering in both SAM and the ERA Commons, because it takes time to register. Sometimes it takes over a month for that process to occur. It is electronic, but it takes time. And once the institutions are successfully registered, then they need to input all of their principal investigator information in there. And it's that principal investigator information that you need to submit the grant. There are actually two routes now. It used to be that you had to submit your application through grants.gov. NIH has been working with grants.gov to develop a portal pretty much tailored to NIH type grantees and NIH applications called ASSIST. And I would suggest that when you see whether you can do grants.gov and ASSIST, that you use ASSIST. There are, on the funding opportunity announcements, there's a download button for grants to use grants.gov. There's also one for ASSIST. The main advantage to using the ASSIST portal is that after you finish putting together your application and you think it's all there, you can use ASSIST, a subcomponent of ASSIST, to run your application through the error checker, and it will give you a list of errors or warnings within your application. And then you can fix them and then run it through again and be assured that there aren't any errors. And then finally give your copy of your grant to your sponsored projects organization, and they can then upload it and submit it. That's the official submission to NIH, is when they basically upload it to the ASSIST site. If you use grants.gov to apply, the problem is, as I see it, is that you submit your grant application, or your sponsored projects office submits the grant application through grants.gov. It stops at the first error and kicks it back to you. And so it's one error at a time. Submit, get an error, come back, fix it. And then it's a stepwise process that takes a long time. And if you're like most people and you're waiting until maybe not the last minute, but the last couple of hours before the receipt date, you'll never hit it. You'll never make the submission. So I would suggest that you use Assist because it gives you a whole list of errors all at once so that you can fix them all and be done with it. All the applications coming into NIH must be in response to an open funding opportunity announcement, or FOA. They're listed in the NIH guide to funding. You can get on the listserv for that, or you can go to the website. The website is actually this first part, grants.nih.gov, grants/guide. And that'll take you to a search feature, and you can then put in anything you want. An institute and see the funding opportunity announcements that they have, or else you can put in some keywords and pull out the funding opportunity announcements based on those. In NIH speak, we call them parent FOAs. These are funding opportunity announcements that are out there all the time. It's for a general type of application. Specifically, the R01 is an example of that. That seems to be the gold standard at NIH, is to use the R01 mechanism. That is what we call an investigator-initiated funding opportunity announcement. That is, it's just kind of out there all the time. It gives you directions on how to submit a grant. It's not science-specific. It does give the mission of the NIH to make sure that the research is within the scope, the mission scope of NIH. But other than telling you how to submit the application, that's all it does. And so whatever idea you have for a research project, you can use an R01 and submit it. There's really no other criteria. There are also things that are science or IC mission-specific funding opportunity announcements on various topics. And these show up for a shorter period of time. They're not out there all the time. They're only out there for as long as the institute deems that it's necessary to reach their goal, whatever that is. So some of these funding opportunity announcements are time sensitive. Here's the link for the NIH Guide for Grants and Contracts that you can use. When you find a funding opportunity announcement that you would be interested in applying to, right up front is a list of dates. One is a submission date, and the other is, there are a number of dates that goes down, but it'll tell you when it will go to the council for the secondary review and when funding could start if you were awarded the application. The important thing about this is when you find a funding opportunity announcement that you are interested in, familiarize yourself with the dates in there, and then there'll be a button within the funding opportunity announcement to download an application. Those application packages are specific to that funding opportunity announcement. So if you, at a previous time, had submitted an R01 to the investigator-initiated application and didn't get funded, but you'd like to use that idea towards a specific funding opportunity announcement from a specific IC, don't just take your application that you put together for the R01 and submit it in response to that FOA. That won't work. You have to download a fresh application from the particular funding opportunity announcement that you're applying to every time. And even if you're resubmitting back to the original funding opportunity announcement, let's say you didn't get funded the first time, so now you amended it, and now you're putting it in as what we call an A1, download the application package again, freshly, because NIH has requirements from time to time, usually about 3 times a year, that come from OMB or HHS of mandatory form changes that have to occur. And if you submit your grant application on an old form, sometimes they won't take it. They'll just return it to you without being reviewed. So it's just a waste of time. Here's a list of parent funding opportunity announcements that are commonly used by applicants to apply for NIH grant applications. Again, these have no particular science involved. It's the type of grant that for research support. This PA announcement number, this is what they look like. PA means that it's going to be out there for 3 years. So usually the first set of letters is the first fiscal year that it was published. So this will be out there from fiscal year 16 through 18 or 19. And have multiple receipt dates within that funding opportunity announcement. There's the R01, which doesn't have any kind of budget limitation to it. NIH does have a general, what we call the 500K rule. So if you're submitting an application that you were requesting in any 1 year direct costs of $500,000 or over, you have to request permission to submit the application from the particular institute or center before you put your application in. If it's under $500,000, you don't need prior permission. We have small research grants that do have some budget limitations. That's the R03. There's the exploratory or developmental research grant, which is usually restricted in time and money. So it's usually a 2-year grant, maybe 3. And there's restricted funds or limited funds. It's not restricted, but they're limited funds. For R21s, there's the Academic Research Enhancement Award, the R15s, which are usually put in by institutions. And then there's the small business research grants and the small business technology transfer research grants, which have their own set of rules. And this PA actually comes out yearly because Congress specifies to NIH how much money needs to go to the small business area. So, and sometimes they dictate the characteristics of that, the level of money that's committed, and things like that. So usually these PAs come out on an annual basis. Please note that even though we call them parent FOAs and they're out there all the time and they sound general, aside from the R01, which all the institutes and centers participate in, these other types of research mechanisms, not all institutes and centers participate. So please look at, there's a list right up front. It's the very first thing that you see when you open up the funding opportunity announcement. Make sure that the IC that you intend to apply to participates in that funding opportunity announcement. Aside from the parents, which these program announcements, here's some characteristics of that. You can read those. The other piece, the other types of funding opportunity announcements that are in the NIH guide are requests for applications, or what people usually call RFAs. And what an institute or center does is write a specific, unique funding opportunity announcement to support an area of research that they either want to stimulate or some other type of activity, like if they want to stimulate collaboration between two scientific fields that they feel is important for their mission. They'll put out a funding opportunity announcement to address that and stimulate research specifically in that area. The importance about these funding opportunity announcements, aside from noting that the area that's defined within the funding opportunity announcement usually is very specific. So you have to make sure that your research would fit within that, that research specificity and would be, that would address that area of research. There is usually a set aside from the budget, from the IC, to fund a certain number of applications that come into that funding opportunity announcement. So here they're saying there are funds earmarked to support those research areas. which you don't get in a program announcement. Program announcement, there's no promise of money behind it at all. With these RFAs, there's usually only one receipt date. It's a one-time only, and most of the time the institutes and centers don't reissue them. So they're out there once. If you happen to see it and you apply to it, good for you. If you happen to miss it or you see it too late, there's nothing anyone can do. It usually is not going to be reissued. So it is time sensitive. So if you see one of those, get on it right away. There's usually special eligibility or review criteria for it. So if there's a particular area that the Institute wants to fund, maybe there are special characteristics that they'd like to see in a collaboration. Those are the kinds of things that would be specified within the FOA. It should be clear. And then in the review criteria, they will ask the reviewers to address whether those aspects were covered within the application, and if so, how well. So make sure that when you're responding to a request for application, you address those special criteria or eligibility factors. And there are usually some specialized instructions that would be inside that funding opportunity announcement as well. These things are fairly long, and the larger scope of the research that's requested, usually the longer the document. So read it carefully. There's also, at the very end, it's the most important piece. There's also a hot link to it partway down in the top of the application. There are contacts. Point of contacts for things. There's a scientific point of contact if you have a question about the kind of science or whether your science would be considered eligible for this funding opportunity announcement. If you have any question at all, call that contact. There's also an email address in there. You can email them. And people are very responsive to those questions. There's also a review contact. If you have a question about your application and you haven't gone on to eCommons to look to see who your particular SRO is, you can always call that contact from the funding opportunity announcement. And they are specific to that funding opportunity announcement. And there's also a budgetary contact. So there'll be a grants management official that's also listed on there as a point of contact. Please use those if you have any questions at all. The standard format or the standard application that NIH uses is called the SF424, Research and Related. Those are the packets that you're going to download from the funding opportunity announcement and fill out. The way you fill it out is usually it'll just ask for PDFs. You can type up your application in any word processor or anything you want to use, and then convert it to a PDF. And it's these separate PDF files that are actually uploaded that are then put together to make the application. And there's also this link at the bottom is very helpful. NIH has just redone their internet, and actually it's quite nice. It's a lot easier to use than it used to be. And they have a section called How to Apply, and there's an application guide. So you can go right to the area that you have questions on. As with all things, to try to be simpler, you think it would be simpler to apply electronically than it would be with paper. But the instructions for how to apply electronically actually quadrupled the length of the instructions than a paper application. So there's lots more to read when applying, unfortunately. There's also another thing I'll point out about the receipt date. The receipt date, it might say April 5th, 2016, 5 p.m. And so that's that you have to have your application completely uploaded by 5 p.m. on April the 5th, if that's the receipt date. Now, what's 5 p.m.? Is it 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Central Time, halfway across the world? It's your local time, wherever you are. So if you are in California, we're not writing it on Eastern Standard Time. it's 5 p.m. in California. As I said, you as the principal investigator would prepare the application, and then you hand it over to your authorized institution official that actually submits the application electronically to NIH. I already told you about the error correction and that kind of thing. An application will go through with warnings, it won't with an error. And there's nothing NIH can do if the application was caught up in grants.gov, which is not NIH, with errors. If it's with warnings and it comes across to us, then even if it doesn't look good or there was a warning, we'll still get the application. We do offer the multiple principal investigators option. This can be if you are doing team science or paired science, and both of you would like to get credit for being the principal investigator of the application. You can come in as multiple investigators, multiple PIs. So NIH at least looks at it as an equivalency between the PIs. If you use the multi-PI option, then you do need to submit which one will be the contact PI, because NIH will only correspond with a single individual to make it simple. So you do need to designate who's going to be primary point of contact, that's the contact PI, and then you have to submit a leadership plan. And there's an explanation of what all is required for the leadership plan, but basically it's who's going to be responsible for which piece of the administration of the grant and what happens if something happens to one of you. How is it going to be transitioned? The multi-PI option is not available for all mechanisms. It's not available for K or mentored awards, and it's not applicable to fellowship applications because those types of grant mechanisms are given to an individual. So it doesn't make sense to have multi-PIs when you give it to an individual. The whole thing is to develop that individual as a research scientist. And this link down at the bottom of the slide takes you to a page that explains all about the multi-PI. And you can have multi-PIs from different institutions. So what happens in a study section meeting? So the SRO, the Scientific Review Officer, is the designated federal official for the review meeting. They are responsible for recruiting the reviewers, identifying what expertise is needed to adequately review the applications. They provide the orientation and make sure that there are no conflicts of interest that are present in the meeting when your application is discussed. And they're also responsible for explaining the confidentiality of the process to the reviewers. And they are there to make sure that the reviewers give your application a fair and unbiased review of the science within your application. The study section, there are two types. There's a standing study section that is one that is usually made up of 15 to 25 members, each of which have agreed to a 4-year term. They meet 3 times a year to review grants. And they're usually more senior investigators from a broad range of related fields. The Center for Scientific Review has the most standing study sections of all the ICs across NIH. And they list on their website all of the standing committees, the science that's covered or reviewed within those committees, and also a current roster of those study sections so that you can see who's on there and what types of science are reviewed, so that we maintain continuity from review term to review term on these, because if you put your application in and it gets reviewed, If you amend it and you put it back in, it would be nice if you had some of the same reviewers reviewing it so that they could see that you responded to their comments and that they're not coming up with yet more reasons and more changes to your application. So we do strive for continuity between reviews. And the way we do that on standing study sections is that every year 1/4 of the committee rotates off, so that 3/4 of it is still the same the next year. So gradually there is turnover, complete turnover within a 4-year period of the review group. There are always what we call ad hoc reviewers that are brought in to cover special areas of expertise that are needed to review those grants that time that they don't have a standing member to cover. There are usually 60 to 100 applications in each review meeting. They're usually uncomplicated applications like an R01. In an R01, you usually have 3 to 4 specific aims. And it's a straightforward list of scientific experiments or trials. The SRO will assign at least 3 reviewers per application. If it's a complicated application, maybe team science application that's very complicated, they may assign more reviewers to where they feel that the areas of expertise are covered and adequately addressed. The reviewers will get the applications at least a month, if not more, before the review meeting, so they have plenty of time to read the applications, consider them, and write their critiques. And they then submit prior to the meeting their preliminary critiques and preliminary scores. They will review each of the review criteria, and usually these meetings last 1 to 2 days. The SRO then uses these preliminary scores to order the applications from best to worst. Usually what's happened, the first order of business is that the SRO will put forth a list of applications that were found to be in the bottom third of those 60 to 100 applications, and basically put that for a vote for the committee and say, these we won't discuss because they're usually, they've received a poor enough score that it's not worth discussing the application and scoring it. You still get a summary statement that says what the critiques are, so you still get the critiques and can respond to it, but you won't get a numerical score. And actually, nowadays with the pay lines we have, instead of a third, they're actually using 50%. So it'd be the bottom 50% don't get discussed. If they are going to be discussed, if anyone is found to be in conflict with the application, they're asked to leave the room. They don't get a copy of the application. They don't review it. They don't discuss it. They're out of the room for that. The assigned reviewers will then give their preliminary scores to the group. Each of the reviewers, you'll start with a primary reviewer. They'll give the list of the strengths and weaknesses as they saw it for each of the review criterion to support their preliminary score that they voiced. They'll then go to the secondary reviewer and third. And then it will be opened up for discussion. The entire group, the 30 or so people that are there, will discuss the application. When they're finished having all their questions answered and discussing the strengths and weaknesses, then the primary reviewers are asked to voice their final score recommendation. They do that, and then the full panel votes their scores, each individually. It's not a consensus scoring. Each reviewer scores the application as they see fit based on the discussions. They then move to discussion of human subjects to make sure that the human subjects were protected adequately and if there are any questions or concerns there. And also the gender, minority, and children proportions are discussed, and any animal welfare issues. The panel members they vote, Already told you that. And then after that, after they score the application, the budget is discussed. So basically the SRO says, are there any concerns about the budget or any specific budget recommendations? And if there are, they discuss them. The importance of this is that the application has already been scored. The scores are locked in. So whether it's expensive or not, or cheap or not, does not influence the score at all. These are basically budget recommendations that are made with relation to what was proposed in the application. So it's just FYI for the institute or center that's going to be funding it. The core review criteria for research project grants at NIH, there are 5 of them. An individual funding opportunity announcement that's specialty can also add to that, but there are always at least 5. The first one is significance. Basically, these are the questions that the reviewers are asked to address in their critique and asked whether the application addressed these enough and specifically. So does it address an important problem or critical barrier to progress in the field? What is in italics is new this year. It's just coming out. Actually, I believe it begins with the May 25th receipt date this year. This is to address the rigor and transparency issues that NIH has been addressing. This question is there strong scientific premise for the project? So within the application, you need to address what's been done previous to your work and critically evaluate what that is. You only get 12 pages for the application, so obviously you don't want to take 5 pages doing that, but you can do it in a page. The next one is investigators. So basically, are the proposed investigators well suited to the project? If they are early stage or new investigators, they're asked specifically to address whether that individual has appropriate experience and training. So you notice that it's not previously funded grants. It's whether you have the appropriate experience based on your BioSketch submission and the training. If they're an established investigator, they'll ask whether they have what their record of accomplishments is in addition to the training. If there's multiple PIs, then, like I said, they'll also evaluate the appropriateness of the leadership plan. The third one is innovation. Does the application challenger seek to shift current research or clinical practice paradigms by using novel theoretical concepts, approaches, or methodologies, instrumentation, or interventions? Just about all these questions are applicable to any type grant. Obviously, some more than others. So if it's, there are some in some of the investigative more clinically oriented FOAs that wouldn't be responsive to a basic science. The reviewers aren't asked to see whether every question is answered, just the most appropriate one for whatever the funding opportunity announcement is. Next one is approach. Basically, this is your research strategy. The new piece is is in italics here. So in addition to your research strategy and whether you thought of all the problems and alternative strategies and benchmarks that you'd like to put in your proposed research, now you have to address whether the investigators presented adequate plans to address relevant biological variables, such as sex, for studies in vertebrate animals or human subjects. So it's no longer okay anymore in an NIH grant application to say you're only going to use males in a mouse strain or something like that, because hormones would impact your study. You're really going to have to justify why you're only looking at it in one sex. So really, both sexes need to be addressed somehow within your study design, unless, of course, it's a disease that only occurs in, say, a gonad of one sex versus another, and it's just not feasible or applicable in the other. And the last one is environment. So basically, this is your institutional environment, support and equipment, as well as your own local environment in your research area. The scoring system that NIH uses changed a number of years ago. It is a 1 to 9. It's like a golf score. The lower your score, the better it is for you. 1 means exceptional, 9 is poor. Each of the assigned reviewers will give each of these 5 review criteria a preliminary score before they come to the meeting. What's scored at the meeting is the overall impact score. This is one of the tables that's used. These are the possible scores that are voted. They vote in integers from 1 to 9. And the other designations that are on their score sheet is an abstention if they choose not to vote. If they're out of the room, they just mark it CF because they were in conflict, so they didn't hear it. The study section can choose to defer an application for review at a later meeting. So if, for instance, they have your grant application, but there's a burning question that they need answered that wasn't in the application, they can choose to defer it until they get that answer, and then they'll address it at the next study section. What that means is a delay of, on average, 4 months for the applicant. So that's usually not an option, but they do have that option. ND means not discussed, so if you're in the lower half of the application pool of that study section, instead of a numerical score on your summary statement, you'll get an ND. NP means not present, for some reason they were absent, or they can vote NR. That means that the study section has voted that this application should be not recommended for further consideration. That is, the Institute should not fund it under any circumstance. Usually those are only done, it's very, very rare, and it's usually done for ethical considerations. In other words, the research being proposed, no matter what the change, what the fix, it's not going to be ethically valid. So they just don't want to see it again. There are things called additional review criteria. This is all within the funding opportunity announcement, by the way. Every funding opportunity announcement that's downloaded states not only what the science is, but how you will be evaluated. So that's an important thing to read because you want to know what the yardstick is that's being used to judge your grant. And an institute or center isn't allowed to change the rules once the applications are in, but before they're reviewed. So what's in the funding opportunity announcement is basically what's going to happen. The additional review criteria they're allowed to impact the overall score if there are problems. Any human subjects issues that aren't addressed or aren't ethical are allowed to impact the overall score. Any plans for inclusion of women, minority, and children in the research. Vertebrate animal protections. There are RFA-specific criteria that are usually in there. If there are special things that the institute or center is looking for and they're missing, that's allowed to impact the score. If you are an application that had a previous review and you're putting it in because it's an amended application, how you responded to previous comments is considered in the score. Usually amended applications do better, obviously, than new applications because they've had the benefit of going through and being critiqued, and then you can amend it and hopefully improve your application. So usually the scores do better. Renewal applications, that is, you've already had a grant for 4 years and now you're putting in a renewal application requesting additional years or continuing your research in an area. Those, instead of addressing changes to previous critiques, you have a page to basically discuss the project that you had made in the previous grant. and during your current funding period. Also, if there are any biohazard issues, that should be addressed. There's another section, these sound a lot alike, that's why I listed them. The importance of the next section, additional review considerations, as opposed to criteria. The considerations don't affect the overall impact score. It's basically there as an FYI to the program staff to make sure that somehow they address it maybe in a negotiation period before the award is made, to make sure that all these things are adequately addressed. But they're not going to affect the overall score of your application. So if there's any questions to the budget, they might talk to you about the budget prior to making an award and want you to adjust certain things. Any resource sharing plans that maybe weren't in the original grant application, or maybe it wasn't up to what the quality wasn't up to where the IC would like to see it. They might ask you to submit another resource sharing plan or beef it up a little bit. If it's a foreign institution, NIH requires that the reviewers specifically address the question of whether that grant, or at least the piece that's being performed at a foreign institution, is available within the United States. And if it isn't, they need to comment on that specifically. And these grants, not the one with foreign components, but the ones that actually have institutions from foreign countries applying to NIH, each of these grants have to be brought up individually to council, and they have to listen to those reasons why a foreign institution was needed to cover that area of science, and then individually make a decision on whether it should be funded or not. So the applicant needs to make a case for using a foreign institution. We fund foreign institutions all the time. There are many things that you can study in foreign countries that you can't study here, maybe because the disease isn't here. But the case needs to be made within the research plan, within the application, why you're using that foreign institution. Select agent research, are you dealing with harmful agents, how you're going to contain them, whether it's allowable under NIH guidelines to use them. The new piece for rigor and transparency is that now there's yet another section called authentication of key biological resources. So you have to, if you're using a cell line, you have to have something built into your research it could be as easy, something as simple as a positive control or a negative control, showing that your cell line really does lack the gene that you think it lacks, or has the gene that you think it has, or that it really is that kind of a cell line and not another one. So you have to build appropriate controls into your research plan to basically confirm that the standard biological tools that you're using to perform the research are really pure and really what you think they are, rather than just assuming that they are what you think they are. I kind of went over this already. It just lists the review group options. They can score it, they can defer it, they can not discuss your application, or they can nerf it. Basically say, we don't want to see it again. The overall impact priority score, usually when things are reviewed within CSR, the score, the actual impact number, in parentheses next to it is what's called a percentile. So the percentile is NIH's way of trying to standardize the scores across various study sections. There might be 85 to 90 standing study sections in any one funding period that are reviewing applications. Obviously, one group of 15 to 25 people aren't going to have the same exact standardizing range for their scoring than another one would. So to try to come up with a consistent way of measuring scientific merit across study sections so that one particular area of science is not hurt by a scoring practice in one study section, NIH uses a percentile. So basically the top 10% of grants from that review group might get funded by a specific institute. So a 10th percentile in one study section might be a 15 in a score, whereas another 10% level in another study section might be a 17 if they were harder scorers or something like that by and large. But what the actual institutes use is the percentile mark in which to fund if they're going to use those from CSR. This goes through how they calculate percentiles, if that's of interest to you. The summary statement, like I said, is the actual report that you will receive from the proceedings from the review group. It's prepared by the SRO. There are pieces of the summary statement that were written primarily before the review. That is the raw critiques of the reviewers you will be given. It'll just be, they're anonymized, so it just says reviewer 1, reviewer 2, reviewer 3. But those will be raw critiques. There is a summary of overall discussion, which is prepared by the SRO, which is actually a summary, and this is usually a couple paragraphs or third to a half a page. That is actually what happened, the primary points that were discussed at the review meeting, and that paragraph, that summary of discussion, is what supports the score. So you may see a disparity sometimes between what a single reviewer said and what was discussed in the application. The difference is that the actual critiques listed under each reviewer were actually written prior to coming to the meeting. So that was them in a vacuum looking at the grant application. But when they came, then they discussed it with their colleagues around the table and may have come up with a different result. So the important thing to look at is actually at least when you're trying to figure out what your score was and how they arrived at it, is that overall summary of the discussion. And that's if it's discussed. If it's not discussed, you'll still get the critiques, but you won't have the summary of discussion, obviously. It's used by program staff to make funding decisions, also to flag any weaknesses or voids that they need to take care of before funding an award. You might see notes in there from an SRO saying, hey, your application was a little long, or you put this in the wrong place. There might be also administrative notes to the program officer. This piece was missing from the application. You're going to have to get it before you fund it. And all of these things, your score, the percentile, the summary statement, you get directly from your ERA Commons account. You can also discuss the prospects for the award or a need to revise the application with the program officer. They try very hard to be at the meeting or listen in to the meeting so that they might have some additional insights as to what was discussed at the meeting if you have questions from the summary that comes out. So what determines which applications are awarded? It depends on how much money the institute or center has. Not every institute or center is given the same budget. They've got a lot to pay for in different areas. So it depends on how important that area of research is to that institute or center. If it is an RFA that came out, obviously they're interested in that area. They set money aside for it. That's stated in the funding opportunity announcement. You can see how much they set aside. If they haven't put out a FOA, but have a good bit of money, most of the institutes and centers, or at least a program officer within that institute or center, will be able to give you an idea what their pay line was, whether they pay 10%, 8%, 12% of their grants that come in. most institutes and center have a more liberal pay line for new and early stage investigators, so take advantage of that. There are programmatic considerations for awarding grants. There also might be geographic considerations that the Institute is trying to do. We are a government agency. Congress does make inquiries, so we try to spread out grants across the country, not put all our eggs in one basket so it doesn't all end up on the East Coast or the West Coast. We try to fund grants in between as well. So there may be scientifically, there may be reasons why they would want different geographic sites represented. So particularly if you're in an area of the country that doesn't see much research, you could use that to your advantage when applying for grants. The availability of funds, like I said, about 81 to 82% of the an institute or center's budget goes back out in the form of research grants, but grants are funded. Budgets are given out in one-year increments to us from Congress, and grants are awarded in 4 to 5 year stretches. So obviously, we've got grant awards in what we call the out years, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we've got to pay those first, the ones that we paid the year before or 2 years before. We've got to pay those first, and then what's left is what we can spend in new grants coming in. So it depends on how many grants the Institute already has funded in previous years. Your program officer is the best point of contact to get some idea of that if you want to. There is a shortened next cycle option for RO1s, not all grant types, but RO1s for new and early stage investigators. There are special receipt dates for these, the 10th of August, December, and April. For resubmission RO1 application, it allows about a month to revise and resubmit for the very next meeting, study section meeting. If you come in, if you're an established investigator and you come in on a normal schedule, usually that ends up, and you submit when you can, you usually end up skipping a cycle. So you really can only put in a grant in 2 cycles in any 1 year because there's an intervening cycle that you're going to miss because you're waiting for that application to be decided on at council, and you'll miss the next receipt date. But NIH is trying to help young investigators in getting their first grant in a timely manner. So there's a special receipt date. It basically saves about 4 months in turnaround time, which means now you're able to submit for every receipt date. You don't have to skip one or miss one. And it's not appropriate for all grants. It only is available for RO1s, and it's really appropriate and won't be a waste of time if the problems that you got back on your summary statement are easily addressable. If they're not easily addressable, then it's worth your time to take more time to fix those, take the time that you need to address those problems, and then put it in for the next receipt date and miss one. But if it's an easily addressable problem and you can hurry up, make the changes and put it back in again, then go for it. And it's up to you to decide if the weaknesses in the summary statement are a quick fix or not. You as the scientist will know. And there's a website on here that defines what new and early stage investigators are. And this is just an illustration of the how it saves you time. So one of the standard receipt dates for new applications is June 5th of 2016. That ends up going to a January council. So that would be January of 2017. You would find out whether it was payable or not. The meetings, the standard meetings for the June receipt date, those study section meetings are occurring between September and November of the same year. With the new and early stage investigator addition, they'll actually release your summary statement by November 10th. You're promised your summary statement by November 10th. And that is, so the SRO will do yours first out of that 60 to 100 grants. And then you are free to submit on the interim receipt date for new and early stage investigators of December 10th. And that will go to June Council. So you've gone from January to June. That's the very next council. For someone that's not an early stage investigator, they won't get their summary statement until probably late December, early January. And it'll go to January Council. And so that's when they get their answer. And then the very next receipt date for them is actually here in March. So they've missed this whole period of time. And that actually goes to October Council, so they weren't able to make the June Council. So take advantage of this when you can, but use it wisely. You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by using one of your amendments because you rushed to turn it around and put it in when it wasn't an easy fix. And like I said, contact the program officer and ask them. They would be able to give you some good counsel on that. There is a format for research project applications. I'm going to try to get through some of this so we can get through to the end. It's just important to know that NIH has tried to make sure that the sections in the application that we ask you to address are in alignment with the review criteria, so that it's easy for you to line up what it is you're writing in the application with how you're going to be evaluated, so that you can address the points that the reviewers are going to be told to concentrate on. You want to write your application as critically as you can, be concise as you can, because the page limits are important. If you have a 12-page limit for the research strategy and you come in with a 14 pages, it's going to be returned prior to review, so you won't even get critiques. And you will have wasted your time because now you've got to revise and resubmit for the next receipt date, which is 4 months away. Don't repeat the same information in different sections. You might briefly want to repeat one little thing if it's important, but try not to waste space repeating things. You want to emphasize rationale, strategies, and analyses in one aim before you move to the next aim. And most of the time, the R01 type format is used for many of the other multi-project applications, like program project grants, which are basically multiple R01s with the same kind of theme, with a number of cores that might serve all of the R01 type projects. Real quick, the introduction to the resubmission. So if you had gotten critiques back and you're addressing them, you get one page to explain what it is you changed in the grant. You shouldn't really go point by point unless you only had a few things, because in one page, if you have 20 things to address, you're not going to be able to explain all 20 in one page. So you can maybe address multiple ones in the same paragraph or something like that. For specific aims, you get one page for the research strategy, which is probably the most important. You get 12 pages for an R01 type application. That's probably 80% of the types of applications you see are going to be 12 pages. For the really short ones, it's 6 pages, and for really complicated ones, there's a 30-page version, but that's not very often. There's a new BioSketch format. You have to write a personal statement that states your experience and qualifications for the role, and this is application specific. So this is not something that you can use from application to application if you're changing research areas or you're changing experiments proposed or, say, a particular RFA. You want to write the personal statement for each particular application you're putting in. Obviously, for amended application, you can use the same one. And then it asks you to briefly describe up to 5 of your most significant contributions. So while you can describe up to 5, if you're a graduate student or postdoc, you're encouraged to consider highlighting maybe 2 or 3 that are the most significant, and really concentrate on those. You have to describe the resources. It's here. I'm not going to go through that. There are other application components that you don't, you're going to have to worry about, but they aren't hard. Obviously, the human subjects section, if you've got human subjects, there are points, bulleted points to address. There's no page limits on that. But don't stick things that are science-related, research strategy related into the human subjects section. That won't go. Your application will be returned as, I think they call it stuffing the application, because you use the 12 pages to describe the research strategy, and then you put 4 more pages in the human subjects section. There's budget components and forms. NIH actually has improved the budget pages and forms now. They look a lot better than they did before, so it's actually easier to fill out. While you fill in the direct costs, it's usually the sponsored projects office that takes care of filling in all the indirect costs and that kind of thing. Most funding opportunity announcements, if they have a dollar restriction in these RFAs, they usually read that very carefully. It's in a table. Please pay attention to whether they're talking about direct costs or total costs. Some people word it as total costs, which means that you've got to back out the basically the cost of doing business, the F&A rates that each institution will have you put on there, so that you know actually how much money you can spend. Other RFAs are listed in direct costs, which means that you actually had that much money to spend. So if your F&A rate for your institution is 100%, then you're able to double your budget with no problem. Or at least the requested budget. You still don't get that to spend, but the requested budget. There's no limit, no page limit to address the animal welfare points. The appendix, keep an eye on this. Right now, you can put things in the appendix should you need to use it. There are rules and limitations for what you can use the appendix for. That's all in the application instructions. It's important to note that the appendix is not required reading for grant reviewers. The actual grant application itself, everything inside it, is required reading for them. So if there are 5 additional pieces of documents that you were asked to submit as part of the application package, they will have to read all of that material. If you stick something that you feel is important in the appendix that's 200 pages long, they're not required to read it. They may refer to it if they choose, but it's not required reading. The appendix is not considered part of the official grant. And NIH is now looking at whether we need to use the appendix at all anymore. So keep an eye on that and follow the instructions for what's allowed and not in the application instructions. I told you that there were things, they're K-type awards. These are individual career development awards that can be very important. I gave you this URL to what's called the K kiosk to help you on which kind of career development award you might be interested in or might be best for you. In general, these are what they are, although each of the institutes use some of these designations a little bit differently. So make sure when you pick up a funding opportunity announcement, let's say for a KO2, the Independent Science Award, that one, the institute or center that you want to apply to because your science is funded by them or your science fits within their mission, make sure that they participate in that particular type of K. There's a newer one here. It's been around for a while, but there's one that's actually a transition award. It's called the K99R00. This is an award, the Pathway to Independence Award. There's strict eligibility criteria for this type of grant. For young scientists or early scientists, this is a good mechanism to use because it starts out in more of a mentored type award for 2 years and then transitions, if you're ready, after year 1, if not after year 2, into an R00 award, which is essentially an equivalent of an R01. So basically full-time unmentored research. So this is a great grant mechanism for new investigators. The format of career development awards are a little bit different because you have a mentor, and so you've got to get not only the candidate's background, but the qualifications of the mentor, how the mentoring is going to happen. It's all in the funding opportunity announcements instructions. So please read those carefully. The review criteria are morphed a little bit. For individual career development awards, obviously innovation isn't something that you would necessarily apply to an individual. So the candidate is a scored review criteria. There's still 5 primary ones, just like there are in the research grant awards. But now you have candidate, career development plan, the research plan of the actual proposed research being done, the mentor, and the environment. So the only 2 things that are the same are the research plan and the environment. Again, all of those are spelled out, and the questions to be evaluated by the reviewers underneath each one are spelled out within the funding opportunity announcement. There's the NIH Loan Repayment Program. It's a special opportunity for clinical researchers. I list the website down here, so you can see if you'd be interested in applying and qualify for it. There are 5 programs. 4 are designed to attract health professionals into the research areas. There's a clinical, pediatric, health disparities, and contraception and fertility loan repayment programs. That's 4 different programs. The 5th one is a program for researchers from disadvantaged backgrounds. And all the eligibility criteria and qualifications are spelled out at that website. This actually looks a little bit different, and it repays up to, if you're funded, it will repay up to $35,000 per year for 2 years of qualified educational debt. And the money doesn't come to you, it actually goes directly to the entity that holds the loan for your student loans. And you can reapply. So if you've had one for 2 years, you can apply again for another 2 years. But there are limits. There are minimum limits to how much you owe before you can apply. So you can't get it down to $20 or something and apply again. You have to be a U.S. citizen to take advantage of these programs, but they are good programs. And my institute, as well as 2 others, fund a lot of these per year. So real quick, kind of some tips to write a better grant. You have to understand the psychology of the review process. First of all, the reviewers are people, just like you and I. They are researchers, just like you and I. They're overcommitted, overworked, and tired, as most of us are. They're inherently skeptical and critical, and they consider them informed strangers. So they are scientists. They are familiar with the types of science that you're proposing. They're not necessarily familiar with you, how you are as a scientist, how careful you are. That's very important for you to somehow indicate through your application. A happy reviewer is likely to be more positive in their scoring, as are any human being. If you're happy, you tend to look at things more positively than if you're unhappy. So anything that makes their job easier, they are volunteers to be reviewers. We're not paying them. We're basically reimbursing them for time while they're here. We don't even do that. We pay $200 a day while they're at the meeting. So the 2 weeks that they spend up late reading and critiquing, we don't pay them at all. They serve because this is the way NIH has been working for years, and they've been funded by the process and believe in keeping it going. So they volunteer to be a reviewer. So any kind of, if you have something that you're trying to explain that might be hard to put into words, put it into pictures, flow diagrams, charts, figures, anything to make their life easier and help them understand what it is you're trying to get across, use. Work on on the organization of explaining your research. And write your application clearly. Don't throw it together at the 11th hour, turn it in, and expect to get a great score. Avoid things that reflect poorly on you. Follow the instructions. The reviewers are very well aware what those instructions on how to prepare an application are. First and foremost, they're applicants, so they've been in your shoes. And most of the time, they're well-funded researchers, which means they've done it a lot. So follow the instructions. Make sure you're following the instructions. Don't put information in the wrong section, and don't omit sections to hit your page limitation. There are font specifications, so don't make it really tiny and make it hard for them to read. Things like spelling, grammar, and math errors really aren't going to affect the score, but again, what they'll do is they'll equate how carefully you proofread your grant application to how careful a researcher you're going to be. Critically assess yourself. Take a look back at your application if you can, kind of separate yourself from the science and pretend you're somebody reading it for the first time. For most of us, that's a very hard thing to do, so use one of your colleagues. You could send it to somebody that you went to graduate school with that knows your area of research that might be good to bounce it off of, or maybe a mentor that you have at the institution. So in other words, finish it a couple of days ahead of time so that they can then read not every little budget piece of your application, but the research strategy. Make sure that they can understand it. If people that know you can't understand it, it doesn't make sense to them, it's not going to make sense to a total stranger. So basically ask them for feedback. Assess the competition. Like I said, the institutes and centers have limited resources. They try to fund as much science within their mission as they can. They've got some considerations, whether it be geographical or science areas or whatever. Everybody's got considerations that they're trying to hit. So you can do research. We have iReport or Reporter on the NIH webpage. It lists funded grants in the area. So you can actually do some research in your area to find out what areas, specific areas within your area of interest are being funded. If there's a lot of grants that are proposing what you want to propose that are being funded, tweak your research ideas a little bit. Go for a different slant. Because if they already have 10 grants that are proposing the same thing, my guess is they're probably not going to be hot on funding an 11th. So try to fill a niche that's not already being funded by the institute or center that you are interested in applying for. Like I said, you can use Reporter. You can also use the literature. And here's the link, the URL to Reporter. You can assess the potential impact of your project. using Reporter? Is it a gap area that you can then parlay into an important area within that area of science? That's going to do better when it comes to the impact factor than other grants are. Obviously, you want to try to choose a project that's likely to have a high impact. This is just some hints on preparing the research plan. Here's some key features of successful applications that we've seen. We see a lot of applications in review, and a lot of them fall into the same standard pitfalls. It's got to be hypothesis-driven for the most part. There are things that aren't hypothesis-driven, but for the R-type applications, the R01s, R03s, R21s, they're all hypothesis-driven. So think of a meaningful hypothesis and state it clearly, and make sure that your research application addresses it. If you have preliminary data or past experience, in the research, then you need to propose it within yours. Don't assume that the researchers are going to know what's been done in the past. Organize your research plan. The bio sketches, don't pad with a lot of in preparation manuscripts or talk about what you are going to do in the future. Talk about what you've done. Establish a base. Sell yourself to the reviewer. And again, that personal statement at the beginning, how you are uniquely qualified to address this area of science at this time, that's very important. So even though it might be a paragraph or two, take a long time on that. Make sure that you don't sell yourself short, and state it well, especially if you're a new investigator. You don't have a big body of literature behind you to prove yourself. So take some time with that aspect of it. Obviously, the description, that paragraph that you take, that's the most read part of the application. Not necessarily by reviewers. They do read it, but what they mean is these are the things that the program staff read at first to try to get to know you and your research. This is what the reviewers will read. If you're funded, the abstract is what's read by the outside community. All those grants within Reporter have been funded, and what's primarily listed on there are the abstract and title. So Congress reads it, the lay people read it, other researchers read it. That description is really a powerful piece of your application, even though page-wise it's not a big deal. The most common reasons for not discussed or not recommended for further consideration are listed here. First and foremost, preliminary data do not support the hypothesis. That's why I stress state your hypothesis well. Sometimes if you are writing your application too quickly, you might describe your research plan in a superficial way rather than trying to be as concise but information-packed as you can. Make sure that everything flows logically. This is where another reader will help you organize your thoughts. Organization is huge, especially when you're only given 12 pages to make your case, especially if it's in clinical research. Don't discount the advice of a good statistician. Make sure that what you are proposing to do has the power to answer the question and address the hypothesis that you put forward. And keep the work scope of your proposed research appropriate for what you're asking, both in dollars and years. So don't think that proposing to do twice the amount of work for half the money, in only 5 years is going to make you look better than someone that kept their research scope and the amount of work that they were getting done appropriate for 5 years and the amount of money that they were requesting. Okay. Make sure your application is complete and correct as submitted. Like I said, this just comes to giving yourself maybe a day extra to look over it to make sure everything is there, that you haven't missed something. In a lot of funding opportunity announcements, if the application doesn't address specific criteria, or there might be additional pieces of information that you have to submit to the reviewing agency or the funding agency along with your application, make sure that you have all those. A lot of those required items, if they aren't there or addressed in some way within your application, then the institute or center considers it non-compliant with the funding opportunity announcement and will return it. So please make sure that you basically check everything off. You have everything in there. At least if it's all complete, then it will go to review and you'll get evaluated, which is what you want. Correction and supplemental materials post-submission. That is, if you forgot something on the day that it was due and it is after the receipt date, NIH does not take extra materials or forgotten materials in order to correct an error. And the policy about what we will and will not take is at this URL. These are just areas that might be helpful to you. There's a bunch of websites that I put there to give you more information. The general NIH website, general information for electronic receipt of applications, enhancing peer review changes that occurred a number of years ago, which might be of interest. Home pages for each of the institutes and centers, which would tell you what kind of grants that they fund, what kind of areas of science they fund, and what they're interested in. You can also find emails and phone numbers for program staff at those different institutes and centers. The Center for Scientific Review, here's theirs. Their URL, you can look for the standing study sections. When you submit your grant, you are allowed to put a cover letter on it and actually request a specific study section. So by design, the study sections have overlapping areas of science so that if someone that you know that would be in conflict with the application sits on this study section, it can go over here, and it still has the right science in it. So you can look, one, at what kind of science are reviewed within those study sections, and look at the roster information, the people that are actually on the study section, and figure out where you would like your application reviewed. And you're allowed to request that, and you can put that in the cover letter. And then here's the general grants.gov website. Any questions? All right, thank you. Good night.